Hi, how are you? Welcome again in this Those House, but this time around we're not going to be looking at essay. We're going to look at the use of language and how language figurative aspects have been used in the text or in the play, and how effective they are to the readers. It is still KCSE English Literature Paper 101 Stockholm 3, the year is 2022. Make good use of these. You never know. So therefore, without wasting time, let's dig into our first figurative language that is conspicuous or come evidently in the play. Metaphors. A metaphor is a comparison using with the term without using the terms like or as. And in this particular text, Henry Ibsen uses quite several metaphors in The Doll's House. These include the following. Now, before we get to the following, a metaphor is a figure of speech, good students. A figure of speech where one thing assumes the position of another thing that are totally different, or is like when saying one thing is directly the other thing, using is and not using like or as. Now, Torvald's pet names for Nora is our first case. Now, he calls her featherhead, light-headed, songbird, squirrel, hunted dove, saved from hawk's claws, and skylark. When she leaves him, that is when she leaves him, he calls her a headless child. All these metaphors are on one hand aimed at reflecting reflecting Nora's apparently innocent, carefree nature, and on the other hand, they suggest that her husband does not think of her as a proper adult because she's a woman. Now, another metaphor is where Torvald says, and I quote up there, how much it costs a man to keep such a little bird as you. Here, in this metaphor, Torvald is comparing Nora to a bird by saying that people would not expect her to spend as much money as she does. The bird, in quotes, reference means that birds are typically low maintenance, but Nora is not. The doll. In Act 3, Nora tells Torvald that both her father and Torvald have treated her like a doll child, with no opinions of her own, and have only played with her. Both men, she says, have committed, and I quote, a great sin against her in discouraging her from growing up. Torvald's pet names for her are prefaced by little, showing that he sees her as a child. Big black heart. In Act 3, Dr. Rank has coded conversation with Nora, designed that is to protect Torvald from unpleasant truth, in which he says he will attend the next fancy dress ball wearing, and I quote, a big black hat that will make him invisible. This is a way of saying that he will be dead. Krogstad is labeled morally deceased because of the incriminating forged bonds and the forged documents that tarnished his reputation. Nora and Torvald crumbling marriage and home are referred to as Doll's House to mean their impermanency. Krogstad uses this metaphor. I am a shipwrecked man clinging to a bit wreckage. That is on page 87, to describe how he felt when Mrs. Linde chose to marry her late husband instead of him. Mrs. Linde replies that she has her mother and younger brothers to take care of, and she needed financial stability, which Krogstad could not offer her. In this metaphor, Krogstad might be suggesting that he is still in love with Mrs. Linde. Torvald refers to his wife as his frightened little songbird, and promises us that his big broad wings would protect her. Now, the title of the play, A Doll's House, is an extended metaphor. It is comparison of a small toy with that of a perfect house. It compares Nora's relationship with every man in her life to that of a young child playing with her, merely a pretty plaything. Good. Now, that's the end of metaphors. Similes. A simile is a comparison by use of the terms like. It's just the opposite of a metaphor. Metaphor is comparison of two items or two things, but without using the terms like or as directly. But in this case, there is the use of the terms like or as. Similes are used in different places in the story to compare certain necessary ideas. Examples. It was like being a man. That is on page 21. This simile was used by Nora to compare the role that she played in sustaining the family During their 1 year stay in Italy, it made her feel like a man supporting them for all that time. Torvald brags that he will protect Nora like a hunted dove that he has saved from the talons of a hawk. Here, he wants to emphasize his commitment in ensuring Nora of her safety. Irony is also another figurative aspect that is used in the text. Before, what is irony? Is a figure of speech, just like the others that we've seen, in which words are used in such a way that their intended meaning is different from the actual meaning of the words. It may also be situation that ends up in a quite different way than what it's generally anticipated, situational irony. And also verbal irony. Now, there are three types of irony evident in a doll's house, and these are verbal, situational, and dramatic irony. Let's start with dramatic irony first. Dramatic irony occurs when the audience is more aware of what is happening than one, some, or all the characters on stage. Now, the full significance of a character's words or actions is clear to the audience or reader, although unknown to the character. In other words, the audience's or reader's knowledge of events or individuals surpasses that of the characters. That is dramatic irony. Examples from the play. Example 1. This happens in a doll's house near the opening of the play when Nora eats macarons. When Torvald then asks Nora if she has been eating sweets, she lies and says she has not. Whereas we know as the readers, Nora and the audience know this is a lie. That is Nora and the audience. Audience, we are the ones. This is a lie, and so no more than Torvald, making this a situation of a dramatic irony. Torvald tells Nora, that is like a woman. But seriously, Nora, you know what I think about that. No debt, no borrowing. There can be no freedom or beauty about a home that depends on borrowing or debt. And yet we know as and Nora that she has been engaging in borrowing. But nevertheless, she has borrowed money from Krogstad, which he has been paying for a long time without his knowledge. The reader, as we are aware that Nora borrowed money from Krogstad without her husband's permission. That's dramatic irony. Nora also forged her father's name to gain the money. She says, you don't know all, I forged a name. In the following conversation between Nora and Christine, that is we're yet to see, it is clearly stated that Torvald does not know of Nora's actions. Mrs. Linde, that is. And since then, have you never told your secret to your husband? Nora, good heavens, no. That is on page 20. Now, another example. There's another example of dramatic irony in A Doll's House is when Nora wants to practice a dance called the Tarantella. When Torvald goes to look in the letter box, Nora says, Torvald, please don't. There is nothing there. That is on page 80. The reader knows, as we already know, that there is a letter in the mailbox that has been dropped by Krogstad. The reader also, as we still know, the audience still knows that Nora has not forgotten the dance as she claimed. She was just pretending. The reader knows this when Torvald goes to check the mail and Nora begins to play the Tarantella. Nora then says, I can't dance tomorrow if I don't practice with you. That is on page 81. The reader, as and the audience, knows that all Nora is trying to do is keep Torvald from reading the mail, which contains a letter from Krogstad. Dramatic irony is evident throughout the text to indicate Nora's exit from her marriage with Torvald. Now, some escalating events have happened in the 3 acts to give clues to the audience that she has already decided to leave. Example, let's see between Nora to Naz regarding the children. Nora, yes, but Naz, I shall not be able to do such much with them now as I was before. Naz, oh well, you children easily get accustomed to anything. Nora, do you think so? Do you think they would forget their mother if she went away altogether? That's on page 50. Nora to Torvald. Nora, Torvald, you'll be sorry for not letting me stay, even if it was just half an hour. She knows that the letter is still in the mailbox and doesn't want Torvald to find out about the contract. But yet we knew that she was leaving. Nora to Miss Linde. Nora, you all think I'm incapable of doing anything serious? Or of ever having to face the brutality of life? Now, that also marks the end of that particular part. Situational irony. Situational irony occurs when something entirely different happens from what the audience may be expecting, or the outcome is opposite to what the audience is expecting, not as dramatic irony. These are examples of situational irony. Situational irony is present when Nora is discussing Krogstad forgery with her husband in Act 1. Minutes before this conversation, Krogstad approached Nora about her own forgery of her father's signature. There is very little hint that Nora is going to leave Torvald until the end of the play. At the beginning of the play, she acts as if she loves him very much. Not until she says, or if anything else should happen to me, anything, for instance, that might prevent me from being here. Situation irony. Does anyone think about Nora leaving Torvald? At the end of the play, she calls Torvald a stranger and walks out. It is ironic that Torvald states that he awaits the moment when Nora will be in trouble so that he can rescue her, when in fact the truth comes out and Torvald has been given his opportunity to rescue Nora. All he is concerned with his reputation. He yells at her, he insults her by calling her feather brain. He screams at her, telling her to go to her room. Now, he is not interested in how he can rescue her. He is interested in how he can get out of this mess without ruining his good name. When Krogstad returns the IOU document, that is, Torvald exclaims that he is saved and that he has forgiven Nora. Now, when Nora asks if she is saved, Torvald exclaims that she is, of course. Only moments earlier, he was furious with her. Ironically, he did not even consider that she had borrowed the money to, in fact, save him. Situational irony is also evident earlier on the play, during Nora's chat with Mrs. Linde, where she talks, or rather brags, about her husband getting promoted as the manager of the bank. She says, and I quote, "I feel so relieved to have heaps of money and not need to have any anxiety." Page 11 to 12. Here, Nora visualizes a happy and blissful life with Helma. However, there is irony in what she says because later in the play, her marital relationship will be shattered and she will leave her husband and all the money, quote unquote, that she had visualized for an uncertain future away from Torvald after realizing that the world she was living in was equivalent to the world of a puppet, or rather doll. Verbal irony. Verbal irony occurs when a speaker's intention is the opposite of what he or he is saying. That is the speaker's intention. Example. Verbal irony is present when Helma says, "Is that my little skylark twittering out there?" Okay, now, he is not really asking if Nora is a bird. He is not even saying that she is twittering like a bird. He's just asking if it is his wife, Nora, and if she is saying something. When Torvald Helma says, "It is my little squirrel bustling about." Okay, that is on page 2. He does not think that Nora is a squirrel either. Now, Nora has her share of verbal irony too. When she's sitting down talking to Mrs. Linde, she says, "There now, it is burning up." The place is not literally burning up. The house is not on fire. Nora is just stating that the temperature inside the house is hot. When Nora is chatting with Mrs. Linde, where she says, "Just fancy, my husband has been made manager of the bank." Page 11, where she talks, or rather brags, about her husband getting promoted as the manager of the bank. She says, "I feel so relieved to have heaps of money and not need to have any anxiety." That is on page 11 to 12. The reader is tempted to think that her life and that of her family is one smooth ride, but it emerges that she is deep in debt and even must work extra hours at night in order to keep up with the payments. Now, good students, that marks the end of that particular episode right there, and see you next time.